The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good afternoon, Florida. Oh, do we have a great show for you today? This is the Ask the Expert show. I'm your host, Steve-O. If you are, I guess, under a rock, you might not know we have got a hurricane coming towards the Tampa, Orlando area, and our great expert is right down in that area. But he's a big shot. He's not afraid of it. Good afternoon, Alan.
Hey, Steve. Thanks for having me. Yeah, you're right. You know, I like I explained when we were talking a moment ago, if anyone doesn't know, this is the legal litmus test to determine whether you're going to be safe in a hurricane. All right. If Waffle House is still open, you're probably okay. If they're closed, get out of town.
That is beautiful. Yeah, it's no, we never know what to expect. Sometimes we don't think we're going to get it all, and we don't do anything, and all of a sudden it comes right at us. But and there's also another one out there right now in the Atlantic. But please, 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 please do whatever the governor, who I guess is finally decided to play governor, is telling you what emergency preparations to take. This could be a bad one, so be careful, stay safe. We want you again for our next show. So, Alan, tell me, because we got, just last week alone, we got 6 emails from people who just found our show, and 2 of them were board members. So I thought that was kind of cool, but since we still get so many new people every week tuning in, tell people about your background and about K. Bender Rimbaum.
Sure. So my name's Alan Schwartzide. I manage our law firm's Orlando office. We've got offices in Tampa. We've got offices in Pompano Beach and Palm Beach Gardens. So anywhere pretty much in the state that you need an attorney that practices in this area of community association law, that's all our firm has done since the 1990s. I actually was with the firm for 4 years, a little bit of history. I rejoined literally a year ago today was my first day back with the firm. So this is my 1-year anniversary. I'm very happy to be back with a great group of people. And not only our senior partners who are phenomenal attorneys and great guys, but, all of the attorneys in the office. It's amazing. The person that just rejoined the Tampa office and moved down from Georgia had been with the firm before I joined the first time in 2010. We've got attorneys that have been with this firm for 15, 20 years, and no one thinks that it's crazy other than all of the stupid people like me who decided to go see what else is out there and then came back. But bottom line, anything that a community association needs, whether it's collection, I've done 8 years of that. If it's covenant enforcement, I literally wrote the book on the subject for HOAs and part of the book for condos. If it's day-to-day guidance, amendments, that's literally all we do day in, day out. We've got 8 attorneys out of the 20 who are board certified in condominium and plan development law. We've got another construction attorney who's board certified. So bottom line, if you don't have an attorney or if you're just not entirely satisfied with the person you're working with, I would welcome you to just reach out to me directly. My partner, Jeff Rembaum, promised me it would be easy to reach me, and he followed through just as he always does on his promise. It's as@kbrlegal.com. Very simple. So that's Alan Schwartzide at kbenderrembaumlegal.com. And our website, kbrlegal.com, is also where you can find, I know you've got the little scroll going at the bottom, all of our classes coming up, the ones that we teach all the time. I actually spent 3.5 hours teaching a class just today, and I'm here with you now, Steve. So all of that stuff, all of the articles that Jeff Rembaum and Robert K. write, that's all available on our website. So I would welcome anyone that wants more information on how a community association should be operating to check out the website.
And Alan is so good. The firm has him do the Tampa show and the Orlando show. You know, this, I want you to tell people about board certification, Alan, because they have to do it, they should do it, and how important that class is.
Well, there are two different options. There's the good one and the bad one. And the bad one is you can sign a piece of paper that says, yeah, I read the governing documents, I'll do my best. Doesn't really mean anything. Doesn't give you any real knowledge, because let's be realistic. No one can read those governing documents and know what the heck they actually say, including most attorneys. So the better way to do this is exactly what you're describing, Steve. That's to go through a board certification class like the one I taught just today for condo directors and future condo directors, which is basically, it's a 2 to 3 hour class that just explains, here's what you need to know to be a decent board member. And, you know, the way that I teach it is I give some examples from real life that I've come across situations before. I explain, you know, here's where you should be reaching out to your attorney versus, yeah, you can just do this yourself. You don't need to spend the money on an attorney, because let's be realistic. Although, of course, we are a law firm, we exist as a business, we're also trying to provide free education. We're trying to provide the resources so that people have something that they can use going forward. So I always provide the slides for any of my webinars. But the board certification, I think, is the most important one, because all of the other ones that we teach are really segmented and specific to certain topics. This is how to be a decent director of a community association, because so many people don't understand when you are on the board of an HOA, of a condo, of a co-op, they don't understand you're also running a business. It may not be a for-profit business, but you are responsible for the proper running of a business and for the proper maintenance and operation of that entire community. So if you're not doing it the right way, that's how people get themselves in trouble. It's how they get the association in trouble. And don't forget, there is personal liability for some things. When you're a director or an officer and you screw up, you got to try and protect yourself. So that's why I always say, I've got 3 clients that recently came in and said, we don't have any issues right now. We just want to know that we've got someone we can go to when something comes up. And frankly, I think our firm is perfect for that, because there's no monthly minimums. There's no annual fee. It's just, listen, if you want to reach out to me and ask me a question, yeah, I'll fully acknowledge you'll get billed for that time. But, you know, if you can attend
customer service, it's so important to the firm.
Yeah, I agree.
I got to tell you, when I go into Pompano, which is your main office, there's always at least 3 ladies up there at the front desk. That is amazing nowadays when people are cutting positions. And folks, I'm going to tell you something. I mean, you see the shows that they do here on Ask the Experts. K. Bender Rimbaum does so many educational, these are all free. They take time out of the day to educate you. And listen, I work with a lot of firms across the country. I have never seen a firm put so much time, or what I would call giving back, as K. Bender Rimbaum.
Sorry, Steve, we have a call on the line. John.
Okay.
Homer. John, go ahead.
Hello? Yes, I'm in here in the Orlando area, and we've got a condo association, and we've got a new management company, and they say they run the show on everything. Is that the correct way for it, and tell the president what to do?
No, that's the opposite of the way that it's supposed to work, John. They're supposed to take the board's direction, although they certainly wouldn't be expected to take actions that would be unethical or against, you know, the statutes
Right.
governing CAMs. But Bottom line, the board makes the decisions. Now, they may have their internal policies as to how they operate as a business, but they don't get to dictate, board decisions. For example, the hiring of an attorney is up to the board. The hiring of a landscaper is up to the board. Whether to agree to certain terms in a contract is up to the board. So I'm not going to ask who your management company is. And frankly, I don't want you to tell us, because I don't want them to know that I'm telling you that, frankly, they're doing it wrong. But the bottom line is, from what you're describing, yeah, they are doing it wrong. They don't get to dictate. The board gets to decide what the decisions are. It's a board vote, not a management vote.
Because it's just like when we do, scheduled the meetings, the monthly meetings, we send everything in on the agenda and they select what they want.
Yeah,
See where I'm coming from?
I understand what you're saying. It may be that the items that you are listing as potential agenda items are not items. I'm sorry?
Okay. You mean like items of importance?
Well, what I'm saying is that they may not be prepared with the documentation they think you'll need. I think what is required is not a switch in management companies, but better communication. That's what Steve was talking about earlier. I think that communication is the key with an attorney or with a management company. If they're not expressing why they're leaving all these items off the agenda, frankly, it's part of your responsibility as a director to talk to your vendor, which is what a manager is, and ask why they're not doing what they were directed to do. And if they don't have a good answer, then maybe it is time to find a different one.
Okay, because there's several things that we need done. Excuse me?
Does that help?
Okay. Yeah, you've really answered my question, because we've had some things that they need to be done, that, repairs be done, and then they turn around and do a backflip and say, oh, it was somebody else's issue. You know what I'm saying? Because they're supposed to follow up on that stuff and come to the board and let them know what's going on.
Yeah, I think there just needs to be more communication coming from them. If there's not a decent level of communication, or they're unwilling or unable to explain why they're doing what they're doing, or refusing to do what they're being directed to do, maybe it's time to talk to a different management company.
Okay, because I've asked a lot of questions, because we've got money being spent, and they tell me they can only give me up to the, each month, to the last day of the month. And like, we were already through this month. I have no way to know what's been spent for this month. They're writing the bills for, because they say I have to wait until next month when we have the meeting. That's not correct, I don't think.
No, it shouldn't be that way. I mean, they should be able to tell you, if they're saying they can't create a report until the end of the month, that's fine, but they should be able to do the calculation. So again, I'll just reiterate, I'm not trying to cut you off, but the bottom line is, it sounds like they really just need to be more communicative as to why they're telling you they can't do the things you need. If they're not willing to explain, hey, this is our process, this is why we do it, or there's a statute that an attorney told us in the past you need to follow, and what you're proposing doesn't follow that statute, that if they're not willing to express that stuff, it may be time to talk to another manager, or frankly, it may be time to reach out to, if you have an attorney, reach out to that attorney and ask, the things that they're refusing to do, or the things that they're pushing us in a different direction, is that the legally appropriate approach, or are they just unilaterally deciding how to run our business?
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time, and you gave me some good answers on that.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Good night. Okay. Bye.
Listen, if you would like to, you have a question for Alan, that's what Alan here, it's what he loves to do. And let me, first of all, we always, during the month, you can text me your questions at 954-336-3767, and we will read those on air. You can call us, just like John just did just now, at 561-623-9429. We can get you on that way. And if you notice on the screen, right to the right of us, you can actually text us there too. So we've got 3 ways that you can contact Alan if you have a question. I remember our last show, we had about 4 or 5 people on hold waiting. The lines do get busy. So, Alan, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. I have gotten so involved with association law, meaning that because we give our text number out there and people call us with questions, and I talk to so many people now, residents, owners, a lot of condo owners, and people are, and I'm not doing this as a downer, but people are really nervous. And it's mostly about, which you have nothing to do with, board members have nothing to do with, but everybody's really freaking out about what's going on with insurance.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I think that every lot owner, every HOA, every condo, their insurance is just going up in this state. And, frankly, the only person that benefits from it is the insurance company. And you're right. It's not the board is just deciding to hike up the assessments. It's not that the manager is getting paid more because the insurance is more. It's the insurance company doubled their rate over the last year. What do you want me to do? We can go and find another insurance company, but guess who's more likely to drop us? The new one or the one that we've been with for, 5 years? I candidly don't have a good answer for that. I agree with you. People are concerned and they have every right to be. It's a frightening situation, especially when, you've got so many people in Florida and especially in South Florida and some areas along the coast who are on a fixed income. And that doubling of assessments suddenly puts the home that they've lived in for 30 years outside their price range for the assessments that are coming due. So I agree. It is concerning. I wish there was more that I could say. The only thing I can say is, as someone who represents community associations, the board's responsibility is to make sure that insurance bill is paid, whatever the bill may be.
Yes.
If there are alternatives out there to try and go find another insurance company, great. Work with a broker, go out there on your own, whatever you got to do. But I don't think any one of them is going to be significantly less costly than the other one.
It's because they're either leaving town or they're closing their doors up. I just heard AAA is pulling out of Florida.
Yeah, I mean, there have been, I think, 3 or 4 over the last few months. I just saw the first one, thank goodness, I can't remember literally ever seeing someone who is now entering the Florida market. And it's because there are so many of these companies that are just getting out. My guess is they're getting in because of the comparable rates, because they know they can charge an arm and a leg, and they're willing to take the risk that there are actually going to be some claims here and there.
Hey, let's go to Donna on the line. Good afternoon, Donna. Do you have a question for Alan?
Hi. Yes, our board is a little confused on condos that are 2 stories and under. Do they have to follow the new law about the fully funded reserves or not?
They're still probably going to have reserves. There were reserves in existence before. They probably won't have to have all of the studies done because you're not 3 stories or higher. But there are some reserves you'll still have to have. So my best suggestion there, if there is confusion, there's no way that within the time we have today, I'm going to be able to explain in full how this works. What I can do is refer you to our website, KBR Legal, under the resources tab. Go to Rembaum's Roundup, and the most recent article, I believe, is Jeff Rembaum's legislative update. It's a phenomenal resource for every community association, and it explains this issue in full detail. Rather than waste your time going through it, I think you're probably better served getting that update and reading through the whole thing. But the bottom line is, yeah, you're right in implying that there are certain things you won't have to do because your condo is only 2 stories.
Okay, one more little question.
Sure.
On the frequently asked questions and answer sheet that you have to give to a new unit owner purchaser with their documents, It's supposed to be updated yearly. We haven't even been doing it. I think this is something we just realized. We're kind of a new board. Does the attorney have to okay this too? Can the CAM just do it?
I would suggest that the attorney take a look at it just to make sure there's nothing on there that could be actionable by someone that disagrees with it. But the bottom line is it's probably something your manager can prepare.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you, Donna. We have a line open now at 561-623-9429. If you have a question for Alan, we're going to go to our first break, and we come back. We have more. Alan, give everybody the number at K. Bender Rimbaum.
Sure. Our main number is 954-928-0680. And frankly, you can use that number to reach anyone. Like you said, Steve, we've got several people that are manning the front desk of the Pompano office, and they run the switchboard to pass any calls along to all the other offices. So again, 954-928-0680. Best email for me is as@kbrlegal.com.
We'll be right back.
Thanks, Steve.
K. Bender Rimbaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rimbaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rimbaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rimbaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. This is the Ask the Expert show. Every week we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. We are talking with Alan Schwartzide right now, and he's with K. Bender Rimbaum. They have been with us for 8 years. They're in our South Florida market, they're in Orlando, and their Tampa market. Before we get back to the show, and by the way, if you have a call, you can give us a call here at 561-623-9429. So, Alan, my girlfriend has to drive to Tampa. Should she worry or should I worry?
Well, I don't know that it's exactly what I'd want to be doing right now. I do have a couple friends, and we have an attorney out in Tampa that seem to be doing just fine. About an hour ago, one of my best friends actually reported that the rain and the wind had just started, but it wasn't too bad yet. I'm sitting here and just went through a squall outside my window, but it's not too bad, although I'm a little further away in Orlando right now. But I think we do have a right to be concerned. I know that all of the local schools here in the Orlando and Central Florida area, for the most part, are closed. The courthouses are mostly closed. And I know Tampa's the same way. But you know what? I think it's due to uncertainty rather than the need to freak out immediately. The only thing I will suggest, get your water, charge your batteries, get your generator gassed up, gas up the car, and make sure that you've got what you need in case something happens. But for most people, I don't think this is going to be the catastrophic event that a lot of people are making out to be. Like I said earlier, I haven't seen a Waffle House closed in the area, so as of now, I'm treating it as we're okay. But the other metric is if you see Jim Cantori coming to Florida, we're in trouble. And I heard him on his way. I heard he's on his way, so you never know. The one relevant comment I can make that isn't joking. Listen, if the governor declares a state of emergency for the state or for your county, just keep in mind that there are certain powers that the association will suddenly have that it wouldn't have absent that declared state of emergency. And that's something you'll want to reach out to your attorney about. Hopefully that's someone who is going to be responsive during this kind of storm. I know I will be working from home tomorrow. I know my paralegal will as well. Bottom line, there are rights that you have during a declared state of emergency that disappear the second that state of emergency ends. So just if there are things that you want to accomplish, for example, special assessments, I explained during the board certification class today, I actually came across a situation just a couple of months ago. I think it was maybe 2-3 years ago now, actually, where a community had levied a special assessment. I didn't think they had done it right, but I looked into when it was done, and it was during the COVID declared state of emergency. And because of these emergency powers, they were actually okay and were able to collect the assessment. So there are certain things you can do that you wouldn't normally be able to do as a community association. You might, if you're having difficulty with certain things in the community, it might be worth looking into whether or not you're suddenly able to use powers you didn't have as of, frankly, even this morning, depending on when and whether the governor declares a state of emergency or your local municipality declares a state of emergency. I'm not suggesting that you use that to your advantage and pass things that shouldn't have passed, but it might be something worth pursuing and at least looking into.
I saw somebody wrote us a question. Can the state, I guess the community association, make you get hurricane windows?
Well, in a condo, yeah. In an HOA, probably not, because it's a little bit different. The leaks in your lot where, you have damage to your roof or something like that, it's probably not going to impact any other lots in your community. But in a condo, potentially in a townhouse community or something like that, bottom line, if it's in your governing documents that you have to have either, shutters or the hurricane rated glass or something of that nature, then yes, if it's in your governing documents, the association can require it. Pardon me, if you're in a condo, chances are that's also going to be something statutorily that the association needs to adopt standards for and is enabled to not only implement but enforce at some point. If you're in an HOA, a co-op, a mobile home park, might be a little different. But yeah, that's something that if the governing documents or the statutes allow for it, it can be enforced.
We just got a text from a viewer. Great show. Thank you for bringing up about the insurance. Is there anything we can do? Write the governor. Does he have any say on rates by insurance companies? Is there anything our governor can do about these rates and how high they're going up?
I think there's minimal impact the governor can have on that other than approving or disapproving legislation. I think you'd be better served reaching out to your legislators and saying the changes that you guys made this year only benefited the insurance companies. You also claim that part of the purpose of giving some of these benefits to insurance companies was that costs would stop being passed along to the individuals. And we can see exactly how that's played out. The problem and the concern that I have is exactly what you mentioned earlier, Steve. We're seeing more and more insurers leaving the state of Florida and refusing to write policies here. And when you start to impact them more and more with legislation that puts more restrictions on what they can charge, what they can do, how hard it is for them to deny claims, etc., all that does is make it more likely that they're going to charge you more
Right.
because they'll figure out a way around any legislation that says they can't charge more. They'll pass along the cost somehow. And the other thing they're going to do is if they can't continue charging more and more and more, they'll just leave the state and say, well, we're only writing policies in Georgia now. So the answer to can we do anything? Well, you can write to your legislator, but I just don't know that there is an end game that is beneficial for the state of Florida here, other than improving the coverage and everything related to citizens. But the libertarian in me says that that's a bad idea, because you're then saying, well, it's taxes that might fund your insurance instead.
Alan, I've got such a soft heart. And I read these letters and people about their insurance rates going up. But, next year there's going to be a very, very big expense for these condos that are 3 stories and higher. And people are so nervous because with the economy the way it is now, that people are really living from one week to the next. And I mean, I don't know where these people are going to go, and they don't know. So they're writing, people like me and you. And I wish I had something to tell them, but there really isn't a lot, is there?
No, I mean, frankly, the discussion I'm going to be having with someone at a grouping of the lawyers that practice in our area in condo and plan development law in late in September, we're going to be literally discussing that exact issue as to how do you even fund this stuff without basically forcing everyone out of their homes? Do you get a loan? Do you levy a special assessment? But the problem is, regardless of what the funding source is, you still got to pay for all this. So really, a loan to basically pay off the entire amount of not only the cost of the study, but if you find any actual problems, the cost of fixing those problems, it all adds up really quickly. And unless there is a funding source that you can pay off over time, like a loan, I agree. I mean, most people are not going to be able to add $500 a month, or even a lot of people $100 a month is a huge thing to add to their budget. And it's just going to hurt the housing market to require people to do this in exchange for trying to keep people safe and basically force them to keep themselves safe is what the government is doing right now. There's got to be a better way, but no matter how many glitch bills we propose and no matter how many things we point out, like what you're saying and what I'm saying, that, people just can't afford to pay this stuff, the response that we're getting is, well, then I guess they can't afford to live in their homes and they'll have to find another place to live. And I don't agree.
Things have changed so much. I went to the grocery store the other day, and something that normally cost me about $40 was $72. That's a grocery store. And I'm sure people have noticed gas is going back up again. It was starting to go down a little bit. Now it's going right back up again. So it's so hard for these people, something that was no fault of their own.
Right.
And, they just want to live in their condo but it's just tough, reading these letters that we get. And I just want them to know that law firms like yours have nothing to do with this. The board has nothing to do with this. And if you're blaming them, and I want to say this, Alan, I think people, when they start having these meetings in September, they might ought to hire security, because I think some of these meetings are going to get tough.
Well, I mean, frankly, anytime you're having a budget meeting for this coming year, it's not a bad idea to hire some security, whether that's an off-duty police officer or, the problem with hiring an individual security guard, so to speak, is that they're not really empowered to do certain things. If you hire an off-duty police officer, you might have more of a chance that, if people really do try and get physical, that off-duty officer can step in and have the law behind him or her. I do think that's a good idea. Unfortunately, what you're talking about is increasing the budget again, because keep in mind, and I appreciate you pointing out, Steve, that this is not the lawyers that work in this industry at all that are proposing or allowing this to happen. frankly, every lawyer I know in this industry thinks that the legislation is not what it should be, and there needs to be a fix for the way that this stuff is going to be funded that was never required before, and all of a sudden it's mandatory. You can't waive it, you can't reduce it, you can't use the funds for some other purpose. I think that it is important to clarify we're trying to fix this so that people can afford to live in our homes. Listen, our firm does foreclosure work. I won't deny that whatsoever, but we want to do it because people chose not to pay, not because people can't afford to live where they live.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, we will represent our clients in either situation, but we really hope that it's not just that the legislature who is really to blame for the changes that have been made, because the legislature has made it impossible for people to live in condos that are 3 stories or more in Florida. That's really what we're talking about here, is the legislature making the changes, and hopefully they'll continue revising and clarifying. And what I'm really hoping for is a legislative fix that says the association can levy a special assessment or get funding in exchange for get funding for anything that they are required to pay for in whatever manner they need to. If it's a modification to the paint color of the building, yeah, okay, go ahead and get your approval. But if it's something that the statute says every community in Florida that meets certain criteria must do, then to say that you also need to get a member vote for the funding source is absurd to me. Because let's be honest, no one can just tack this stuff onto their budget. It doesn't work
Right.
out. Especially with, like you mentioned, the cost of groceries, the cost of gas, inflation in general, the cost of insurance. You add all that together and now you tack on all of these expenses. I agree. It's just not feasible for a lot of people to pay it. And I really hope that the legislator fixes it before we have a foreclosure crisis.
Well, we can't also forget the part of the reason they're doing this is they don't want another Surfside, which I understand that. But
I think that the basis for it is entirely logical, and I'm 100% in favor of protecting people from themselves.
right.
But I think that the way that it's being done is really the issue. And the fact that
Exactly.
there is, I know Jeff Rembaum talks about this constantly. I think Mike Bender does as well, and I'm sure Robert Kay does. I talk about it constantly with my clients and during webinars when people ask about it. But the lack of a real funding source for these expenses that were never anticipated in the entire history of a 40-year condo, and all of a sudden you have to deal with this. I just don't understand how people are supposed to continue living in condos.
Yeah, that's what people are so afraid of. And, we'll keep you up to date on what's going on out there. And I just don't want people to blame the wrong people. It's, what you do, what Kay Bender Rembaum does is you do everything you can to help these residents run a business. And it's running a large business.
Yeah,
And some of these people have never run a large business before.
correct. Some of these people have never run a small
Thank
business.
God for you people, for your firm.
Well, and that's really where we thrive, is with people who want to be better educated and understand what it is that they're supposed to be doing as directors. Listen, we certainly take on the person who has, is on the board of their community and has worked for Cisco Foods as a president of an operation for the last 20 years. We're happy to work with that person because they might not need quite as much education on how to be a director. They still need the education on how to be a director of a community association. So, that is really a good portion of why we offer so much education, because it is so important to know what you're doing and do it the right way.
Okay. Well, we have a line open if you'd like to call in right now. We're here with Alan Swartzide, Community Association Law. He's with the Kay Bender Rembaum Law Firm. They've been with us for over 8 years. They cover all of Florida. They have offices in Orlando, Tampa, Palm Beach, Pompano. Just an incredible firm. And what I like about K. Bender, and again, I have worked with many community association law firms. Basically, this is all they do. And what I mean by that is you might see someone who does association law, but they also do criminal law and PI and bankruptcy. This is where K. Bender puts most of their efforts in, is community association law. And that's who I want representing me. Let's go to our last break. When we come back, we've got so many more questions for attorney Alan Swartzide. We'll be right back.
K. Bender Rembaum is a full-service community association law firm dedicated to the representation of community associations throughout Florida. On kbrlegal.com, you can learn more about their offices in Pompano Beach, Palm Beach Gardens, Orlando, Tampa, as well as throughout Miami-Dade by appointment. Several K. Bender Rembaum attorneys are board-certified specialists in condominium and plan development law and assist clients with all matters of community association legal issues while keeping them up to date on new developments that affect their associations. K. Bender Rembaum is also a well-known provider of free legal education for managers and board members. Contact K. Bender Rembaum today by calling 800-974-0680. That's 800-974-0680 to reach any of their locations. You can also visit them online at kbrlegal.com or write to them at info@kbrlegal.com.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
All of our listeners and viewers, please stay safe over the next few days with this hurricane out there. We're going to go to our questions now. We're here with attorney Alan Swartzide. He's with K. Bender Rembaum, the Community Association law firm. This is Bob in Winter Park wants to know, what happens to the surplus in a condo budget? Can it go into a contingency fund line item on the next year's budget? And what can a contingency fund be used for?
I don't know that I would use the phrase contingency fund. That sounds like a slush fund for me, and it's not something you're supposed to really do. What you can do is use that for expenses that weren't anticipated instead of a special assessment. Another option is simply reduce the assessments that you're charging next year because you already have money sitting in the accounts at the end of the previous year. I don't like the contingency fund. I'm trying to think of a way that would not sound quite as bad, but frankly, I'm just not able to. So I would say the easiest way to use it is simply reduce your assessments next year, and your members will love you for it. That's one of the few times where I will say reducing your assessments is a good idea. Most of the time, my reaction is you got to keep the assessments where they need to be. But here, that's exactly what you're doing.
Here's Keith in St. Petersburg. Apparently has taken your classes. He said, I'm an ex-board director who continues to take K. Bender Rembaum classes each year for the update of laws. You need to continue to offer this class with our board and property management so they stay up to date on all new laws. Not a bad idea, huh, Alan?
No, I mean, we offer our classes free to literally anyone that wants to show up. I don't know of anyone who we've banned from attending them. If you're talking about teaching them directly to your management firm or directly to your board, that's something I offer. I can't speak for any of our other attorneys, But if we're a current client, what I would generally do is just, tell you, hey, we'll teach the class, whatever that class may be. You'll have a Q&A session for as long as you need. I'll reserve, let's say an extra hour or two, and you'll just be charged my normal hourly rate for providing that service directly and only to your community or your board, so that they can ask the questions during the Q&A, or I'm sorry, during the webinar or the seminar or whatever you want to call it. But I agree, it's a good idea to have your directors attend every class that's offered by every lawyer, because the bottom line is, as much as I would love to say it's not worth attending anyone else's classes, just come to mine. I will say that about our legal services, but the bottom line is, the more free education you can get, the more likely it is that every argument is something that you'll have heard from one or more of those attorneys. So it just gives you a broader scope of knowledge. And I think that's a great idea. But bottom line, yep, I agree with the suggestion. Keep attending the classes, whether you're on the board or not. It might benefit you as a member of a community.
Here's from Michael in Lutz. He wants to know, are email requests for official association documents valid, or should we follow up with a certified mail receipt?
Well, I mean, a certified mailing is not required in any type of community. Most of them, you just need something in writing, but I would suggest you send a letter at a minimum. Unless your community policies and procedures, which would be something adopted by the board, specifies that it needs to be sent by certified mail, I don't see any reason it needs to be sent that way. And an email might be sufficient. It might not, depending on what type of community you're in. You didn't clarify whether this is a condo or an HOA, so I can't really answer directly.
Here's Rick in Tampa. We had a board meeting last week, and they want $40 million for our 40-year. Can that be possible?
Yes. That's about the best answer I can give. I mean, I don't know what 40-year you're referring to. It could be a recertification for your building. It could be that, you're having the reserve study done and they found problems in your building. So it just comes down to, I don't know what that 40 million is for, but, depending on what work might be needed, yes, it's entirely feasible that work on the structure of a building, on balconies, things of that nature, it could easily add up to 40 million if it's a large building that requires a lot of work. I wouldn't say that it's possible that would be your study alone. I've never heard of anything beyond in the low tens of thousands for that, but for the work to be performed, and it might be in a multiple building condo, yeah, that's definitely feasible. Not something I'd ever want to see in my budget, but it's feasible.
Yeah. Here's this next one is, we get this from time to time. This is from Denny in Clearwater. He said, we had a former board president that paid himself $70 for time spent on deposition. What course of action can I take as the new board president?
I hate this. And here's why. Yeah, you can go after him. You can try and get the $70 back. You'll spend more sending your first letter from an attorney than the $70 you're trying to get back. You'll also likely trigger the association's directors and officers liability insurance policy, and possibly also the indemnification provisions of your governing documents, which means you're going after this guy, but the association's paying the cost of his defense. So bottom line, just be happy he's not on the board anymore is my best suggestion.
Walk away.
Yeah.
This is from Steve in St. Petersburg. Can I, as a condo owner, sue the roofer that the board fired? The condo association has the attorney involved, but I don't want to lose $975.
Kind of the same answer as the last one. I mean, you're going to pay an attorney how much to go after your portion of $975? And frankly, I don't know that you have the right to sue if it was just the association that hired the roofer and not you personally, you'd be more likely to succeed potentially, but probably not, in going after the association if you demand that they perform the repairs and they choose not to do it. But keep in mind that chances are, if they're involved in litigation, with the roofer already, there's probably a gag order, so to speak, on doing any work, like a moratorium, where because the lawsuit's going on, they're being told that they can't complete the repairs because evidence is needed in this pending lawsuit to prove that the roofer didn't do their job. So again, most likely let it go and hope the association does the right thing, or send the association some kind of demand saying, hey, you guys hired a roofer who screwed up. I want to make sure you fix it.
Well, Alan, as always, this show goes by so fast.
Agreed.
We're going to be doing this again on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Hope everything turns out okay with the weather. Give everybody the phone number again where it'll work for any of the 3 offices.
Sure. Our direct line in Pompano is 954-928-0680. Again, that's the way you can reach any of our offices. And my email is as@kbrlegal.com.
And I want to apologize to Dominic. We didn't get to you today. Anyway, again, thank you for listening today. Alan, you always do such a great job. We'll see you on Thursday.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming today. And Steve, I will see you in a few days.
For sure. Stay safe.
Likewise.
And we'll be back again with you next week with more Ask the Experts. Everybody stay safe, stay inside, stay out of the weather. See you soon.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk 4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.